you for joining us. Thank you for joining us for the insurance. We have Marcia C. Brogan, who is an independent insurance agent with more than 40 years of experience. Her mission is to provide the best insurance solutions for your childcare. Marcia is the premier insurance agent for childcare, whose passion is to help childcare owners flourish with their proper business information through education and empowerment. She is the owner of Marcia C. Brogan Agency, LLC, a New York State and New York City certified woman business enterprise, past president of Kenmore Business Association, and past president of the Buffalo Niagara chapter of the National Association of Women Business Owners. Marcia is the recipient of 7 awards, including the 2019 Elite Women in Insurance, 2018 Noble Member of the Year, and 2017 Women of Influence Award from Business First, 2016 Women in Leadership Award from New York State Women, Inc., the 2013 Excellence in Leadership Award from the State Council of Early Care and Learning. Marcia is also a board member of Our Lady of Victory Charities, Supportive Services, and the incoming president for the Buffalo Niagara chapter of the National Alliance of Mental Health. I present to you Marcia C. Brogan. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Marcia.
Hi, Nadege. Thank you so much. So thank you for the clap, Tanner.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to just kind of go through everything. And if you have questions, if you can put them in the chat box, and Alyssa or Nadege will let me know right when the question comes up so we can address it right at the same time. So today we're going to be talking about the PowerPoint, cyber liability, how to prepare, prevent, mitigate, and restore. So our learning objectives today is: what is a cyber risk? What are the legal risks associated with cybersecurity, and how to finance a cyber risk loss? So I got to move this a little bit here. So how well do you know your business cyber exposure? Okay, when I ask these questions, just sort of count in your head or mark down how many you have. Do you retain any physical or electronic records of your employees, children, third vendor? Do you have any social security numbers, driver's license numbers, dates of birth, banking information, email addresses? Does your business have employees? Do you have a website? Do you use third-party vendors such as an IT person? Do you have a lunch program? Do you use mobile technology? Do you have smartphones, tablets, laptops? Do you accept credit cards, electronic payments? Do you email online bills? Do you allow your employees to use their personal devices to connect with your network? And do you store any confidential information? So we have a couple people there, right? Of those couple people, how many of these 8 items do you have? Can you put that in the chat? I don't know how I can see the chat.
We can read it off to you, Marcia.
Okay. I should be able to see a chat on here, though.
Might have to go to the bottom taskbar and hit more and then chat, and then it might pop up there.
Well,
the chat option should be right next to the left of the share screen option on the bottom.
Okay, I don't. Oh, here it is. Chat.
Mary
Okay,
Beth,
all of them.
all of them.
Okay. All right, moving along here. I'm getting it together. Okay. Can you still see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, because I moved some things around on my other one. Okay, so Mary Beth said you had all of them. I'm sure the other people also have the majority of them. So what does the term cyber mean? It refers to the use of the computers, your internet, your computer networks, any electronic information databases, all the information security, whether it's in electronic or paper form. So you might say, well, you know, I have files on my desk. Well, if those papers are on your desk and somebody takes the information, the cleaning people come in and they see a credit card number and they write it down and they take it, you're liable for that. Even though it wasn't on the internet or it wasn't in the cloud, it was still paper. A lot of cyber companies will cover the paper aspect as well as the information online. So when you work with the cyber company, that's one of the questions that you ask them. Do you cover paper as well as the internet losses? So how do we get here? Before the internet, you had to physically share information. You had to write it on a piece of paper. You had to put it on a desk. You had to store it in your filing cabinet. And if somebody wanted it, they would come and they'd have to break in, steal it. Now it's so much easier because everything is stored on the cloud. It's a simple touch of a button. They can hack in and they can steal whatever it is that they want. And once you put it on the web, it is there forever. You can't get rid of it. So what are your cyber risks? There's internet connectivity, e-commerce, business websites, your advertising, customer forums, support message boards. I know a lot of daycares have message boards, credit card processing. How do you get your payment? Do they give you your credit card number? Do they give you your banking number? Do you store any data storage? Do you have a website design? Do you provide any media content? Like I said, you had paper documents. There's also a human error. You could be inputting the wrong information. You can accidentally, which has happened to several people, including myself, you're typing an email, you're sending it, you go to the tab bar, you think you're clicking on one, and you accidentally click on somebody else, and that gets out to the wrong people, or criminal activity. So there are 4 steps to managing a data breach, and those go by the initials of SAFE. Okay, I'm just looking at some of the questions. So S is set the strategy. Think about how you would respond to a cyber event. So the best way to do is think about if you have a fire in your building. So what would you do if you have a fire? Well, you have to notify the insurance company. You have to protect you have to protect the building as much as possible. You have to put up emergency enclosures. You have to make sure that the families are notified that the building is not going to be open. What about your contents? How is that covered? Well, a cyber is sort of the same thing, but in a different mannerism. So a post-cyber event should include things like you should notify your customers, your parents, your clients. You should assess the scope of the breach. You should handle the legal policies and procedures and report the event. You should contact your insurance carrier, and you should manage your communications. A is assess the breach. When an event occurs, just how widespread is it? Are your systems secured? And this is one of the things that when you work with a company like Tanner's, they will go through your system and make sure that your systems are secure and look for gaps that can be breached. Your data should be categorized of what was compromised. So when you notify the company, they can adequately notify your customers quickly. Was it the social security numbers that were taken? Was it medical information? Was it financial information? Exactly what was breached so that your insurance company can address it quickly. F is fix the problem. You hire a breach coach. That's something new. We never had a breach coach years ago, but normally that would be something your insurance company can work with you on to figure out a communication strategy. When did it happen and what do you need to do to recover? It's almost like the PR people that we have if you have a general liability loss. And like, you know, I had a client that they had a van and the van ran over a child and killed the child. That was a nightmare. But because they hired a great PR company with the insurance company, people remember the loss, but they don't remember the daycare itself. The same is true for you. You don't want people to remember the fact that it was your daycare involved in this loss. They could remember what it is, but PR is important. People are not going to want to give you information if they know you're going to be compromised. They want to make sure that your company network is secure. And E is examine your system. This is where your IT person like Tanner would come in, or another company like that, to check and ensure that your system is secure. Make the fixes, go in and do periodic checks to make sure there aren't any gaps, to see how somebody could get in and steal your information. Does anybody have any questions on that? Does anybody have one of those systems in place? Okay, I don't see any. I guess probably people don't yet, and this is what it's all about, learning to see why you really need to have it. So what is a data breach? A data breach is a security incident that is that is sensitive or protected with confidential data, whether it's copied, transmitted, viewed, or stolen by an unauthorized person. It can involve financial information, credit card, personal health information. As child care providers, you have a lot of health information, and not so much the trade secrets or intellectual property, but it's that health information that if it gets stolen and it gets out into the public that the parents don't want anyone to know, you could be in severe difficulty. So I'm going to ask now if you can put in the chat box, what was the latest breach that you heard of? Has anybody heard of a recent breach? Tanner, you can chime in on this one too. Have you heard of a recent breach?
I have actually, and excuse me, as I was telling you earlier, I lost my voice over the weekend, so bear with me. But one of the latest breaches I've heard of was a company called Seesaw. It was Seesaw. There was a data breach, and it actually affected school systems. So it's an application that school systems use to communicate with the parents of the children at schools. It had a huge data breach. Ransomware was asked for, so they did ask for a ransom, and they received a lot of information on families that they probably shouldn't have. So that was the most recent breach that comes to my mind, and that did affect people right here in the Buffalo area.
Oh, well, that's huge.
It is.
So has anybody been breached? I know I have been breached, and they received I think it was like from Kohl's or one of those stores, Target, where the information was breached, and then they send you a letter in the mail letting you know you were breached. They want to do a credit check for you. Has anybody been notified that a company that they are affiliated with has been breached? Can anybody put it in the chat?
Again, just to speak up, Peloton. I have a Peloton bike, and I know that their company was breached. They received a bunch of passwords, and going into what I'll talk about probably a little bit later, it's why you shouldn't be reusing passwords on multiple accounts. It just makes it too easy for people.
Okay, thank you. So what is related to a data breach? It's collecting personal information without the consent of the individual, mishandling of that information, failure to provide the person with the choice on how their information is collected, failure to provide an opt-in, opt-out, failure to provide notices of proper handling procedures, disseminating inaccurate information, privacy policy, or failure to provide access to how the information is collected. So some of these pertain to you as childcare providers, some might not, but it's a business exposure, and as a business owner, these are things that you need to be aware of. So my providers that are on here, all the people that are participating, I'm going to ask you if you have any of these. If you have any of these, if you can just put yes in the comment section. Do you have personal data? Do you have health information, name, dates of birth, gender, race, social security, medical conditions, allergies, ADHD, dyslexia, any family info, financial status, whether or not they get free or reduced lunches? You might have a special program that collects this information, their banking, social security numbers, whether they're an immigrant, whether they're homeless, whether they're economically disadvantaged. If somebody hacks into it and gets this information out, they can shoot it out into the into the web, into the internet, and who knows who's going to see it. And this affects people's mental state also, if their information is out there that they're trying to keep private. Okay. So how can you be liable? Okay, and this goes right along with what Tanner was saying. In 2021, 1,200 American schools were attacked by ransomware gangs. Now, there is such a thing as ransomware gangs, and there are companies in foreign companies that that is their business. Their business is just to do this. They have employees, they have bonuses, they have health insurance. It's a real business. And this is what their job is, to hack in and to hold companies for ransom. Credit cards were fraudulently opened with information that they obtained. This is huge. Car loans are made in children's and parents' names. So if they hack in and they get a child's social security number, their name, their address, they can put things in their name. Identities were stolen. And once an identity is stolen, it's very expensive to recover it. Information stolen from your computer. As I said before, paperwork on a desk, laptops that are in your home, or if you leave it in your car and your car is broken into, you have a laptop at home and you have friends come over, your kids have friends, they get in, they see information, they hack it, they send it to somebody else, boom. Now there's a cyber an incident. Or an employee, like I had mentioned before, accidentally emails the wrong person. That's human error. That can happen to anybody. We're all in a rush. We're all looking at things quickly. So that can happen. So who are you responsible for? As a child care, whether you're a resource network a provider, whether you're an actual child care owner, you're responsible for all your staff, all your teachers, your janitorial staff, your volunteers, your board members, anyone basically that's associated with your child care that's on site, and your vendors. You have vendors, you have food programs come in. Some of you might have classes being taught. Those vendors come on site, you have their information, they have your information, you are responsible for it. If your vendor has your information and they get hacked, that means that somebody can hack now into your site. So you're opening yourself up to a big exposure, and it's really important that you prepare yourself. This is pretty scary, and sometimes people leave this and say, oh my God, it's just so overwhelming. And it can be, but that's why you have to be proactive and make sure you take the best approach. So a lot of people and daycare providers will say, well, you know what, I have it on the cloud. I have it with my IT company, so I don't have to worry about it. Yes and no. Your IT company will provide a lot of protection for you. However, if there's an incident and they are hacked or compromised, their insurance company is going to take care of them first because they're the client. They're going to make them whole. The next thing they're going to do is they're going to take their next largest account and take care of them and go down the line. Well, how much insurance do they have, first of all? And will it be used up by the time it gets to you? And secondly, your clients are coming to you saying, I came to you, I gave my information to you. I didn't give it to your IT company. I don't care that your IT company is working on it. All I know is I gave the information to you and you need to protect me. If you have your own cyber policy, your company will respond to you first and your clients. It won't be a trickle-down effect. So that's the other thing you have to take into consideration. And you don't even know if they have enough insurance to cover. You might be number 50 on the list of being compromised because they were they had an incident. There might not be enough funds to do it, or it might take weeks for them to get to you. In the meantime, you have clients that are upset. Those upset clients are now thinking twice about, do they come back to you? Do they find another daycare? And that can really have an effect on your bottom line. Is there any questions on that? Does everybody pretty much understand what I mean with that? So one of the things I want to talk about is the SHIELD Act. In March of 2020, the government, New York State, said that all persons or businesses that own or have licensed computerized data that includes private information of a New York State resident, that they have to provide safeguards to the security and confidentiality of their private information. So if you have any type of personal information, social security, driver's license, account number, you have You might have employees that you get their driver's license number. You might have fingerprints information. Everybody has email and usernames. You have an account that they have to go in with the password. If you have any of those and they find that you're compromised and you are not in compliance, they can fine you civil penalties of up to $5,000 for each violation. And you think about if they come up with how many violations, what is that to your bottom line? Your business will end up closing because of the cost just for the violations. So what are the legal risks associated with cybersecurity? It's the legal theories, which just talked about, the shield, and plus the regulations. Now, every day there's more and more regulations that they come up with. There's the new ones coming up for common law, like negligence, fiduciary duty, misrepresentation, and contractual relationships. So so you have contractual relationships. If you are compromised and somehow they get that information from the companies that you have the contracts with, and now they're compromised, now you've just compounded the loss. Also the litigants, your consumers, your employees, your bank cards, the federal state regulations, your clients, and your shareholders, which are the directors and officers. Those are the people that can come back to you and say, hey, there was an incident, you were compromised, and now I'm compromised. So these are all the people that can come back to you saying that you compromised their information. So how do you pay for a cyber loss? If you have the cash to pay for the fines and the legal costs, then you could do it without any type of coverage. But you know yourself what attorneys charge $400 an hour. Now you have to have a forensic person come in, review everything, see how you were compromised, notify all the employees, notify everybody that was compromised. It can add up. Or you can do it with insurance. You might say, well, my property coverage would cover that, or my general liability coverage would cover that. But it's not necessarily so. They might offer small coverages, but you really need cyber coverage. So you might say my general liability, but general liabilities have electronic exclusion. The property coverage, well, your cyber is an intangible, so that would not be covered. Plus, human error is not a covered peril, so that would not be covered. You might say I have crime coverage. That's if somebody stole money, but electronic data is not a tangible property with an intrinsic value, so that would not be covered under crime. Well, I have professional liability. Well, professional liability wouldn't respond because it doesn't offer it's the protection of confidential data, which is now part of the security of your professional service. And then you say, well, I have directors and officers. Well, their claim would have to be a wrongful act in the capacity of the directors and officers. And with the directors and officers, the professional exclusion might not apply. So you really have to look at the directors and officers policy, what type of coverage you have. But chances are, with a claim that we just went over, it would not be covered. So what does cyber insurance cover? Am I going too fast for everybody? Is everybody getting it? Yes, no? Do I need to slow down? Okay, so nobody's saying I'm going too fast. I'm going to continue to go. This is a bit overwhelming. Yes, Kathy, do you want me to slow down, or yes, I'm going okay? Okay, well, I'm just going to proceed. So what does cyber insurance cover? It covers your first party loss, which is you. Thank you, Kathy, which is you. It's the cost to repair, replace, and recreate the data. You have all that information, someone hacks into it, it's lost, you can't get it, there's a virus, it needs to be recreated. That takes time and money. So that would be covered by the insurance. The loss of income. So now you might have to be closed for a few days or a week or whatever, so that your system can get back up before you can start getting information. that would be covered. It's also caused by a loss due an act of God. There's a power shortage, and the towers are affected, and now everything is down. Human error, which we've talked about, that is huge, because you know what, I know myself, if you're working on your phone and you see emails come in, it doesn't show you the whole email. It just shows you who that first person's name is. And unless you click on it, you don't see the full. It might say M. Brogan, but then it comes from something else, but you don't necessarily see it. So you click on it, there's a link, you click on that, all of a sudden now you're compromised. So that's huge. Or like I said before, you accidentally send it out to somebody. And then there's the criminal, which is the virus. Somebody sends you viruses, which, you know, those are happening all the time. Now there's third party losses, which are theirs. So the direct loss to others, your parents, your clients, it's the fines and penalties imposed by the government. It's your loss of reputation and social impact. How to get that back up. There's a cost to getting all that done. There's a cost to a PR person helping you work through it. It's caused, and those are caused again by the third party losses. For them would be the same thing: act of God, human error, and criminal activity. So what's protecting you on yours is also protecting your clients should something happen and they come back to you for restoration. So again, what does it cover? It covers first and third party for accidentally damaged or destroyed data, including power failure that's under your control, administrative or optional or operational mistakes, and release to public and cause unauthorized use, malicious codes, denial of services. It covers you and any subsidiary of yours. It covers the first party loss, which is you, and third party loss, which are your clients. And how is it rated? It's rated by your class of risk, which would be child care, the revenue, what your exposures are, and Tanner's going to go more through this later, and what your system is and how you're protected. So insurance can cover detection, including forensic and investigation activities, assessments, audit services, crisis team management, communication to executive management and board of directors. So I had a client of mine that was opened an email that she thought came from the county. It didn't come from the county. It was a virus, locked everything down. The insurance company immediately got on and they had a forensic team come in to see where did it come from, how did it happen, and see what the loopholes were that they were able to get into her system. And they assessed and they did an audit. And this was done very quickly so she can get up and working. This alone, this whole forensic and investigation and audit was $50,000. She had a $5,000 deductible. So all she had to pay was $5,000. $45,000 was covered. And it didn't include any fines or anything like that. This was just this forensic and investigation activities. I mean, she was a pretty large company, but even still, you have how many parents, how many files do you have? All that needs to be taken into account. And as again, paper breach is covered as well as cyber. So they also, the insurance will notify the victims. It includes a help desk, communication, special investigation, remediation, legal expenditures, identity protection services, regulatory intervention. So now you have all your parents calling up, contacting them. You have a help desk that they can go to and they can work with them instead of them calling you and saying, I have this. Now you've got to walk them through. That's your time. That's not your expertise. Your expertise is working with children and getting them to a level that they need to be at. It's not cyber. It's not this type of loss. That's why you have insurance, so that the experts can work with your clients and let them know that you're taking it seriously, that you're protecting, not only are you protecting their children, you're protecting their information, and you're doing it in a professional manner. This shows how you care for not only the children, but you care for the families and entrust when they entrust all this information to you. It also gives activities to help minimize loss of customers, the cost of new customer acquisitions, costs related to business disruption, the losses that you have. It does public relations. All that is important when you have a major loss. It also helps mitigate your financial loss, the money you lose directly and indirectly. It helps you recover by having expert services to help you get back in business. It helps you be ahead of the game of contractual obligations. It helps you understand and assess your risks, and it matches your exposure with the right coverage so that you're getting exactly what it is that you need to protect what it is that you're trying to protect. Here's some claim examples. An employee stole a computer storage device, a flash drive. They contained personal and medical records of 70,000 patients. No indication that the patient data was inappropriately used, but this was stolen. This had to be addressed. Gucci, an engineer was terminated for insider information to delete documents. He took a bunch of things before he left. So you're not Gucci, but you might have disgruntled employees that feel that maybe they shouldn't have been let go, and they're going to take this information and they're going to shoot it out into the internet, or they're going to sell it. New York Yankees, an employee accidentally sent out an email with the spreadsheet that contained personal information of 17,000 season holders. So you have a spreadsheet of all your your children, the ages. Maybe you break them down into certain areas. Maybe you have certain information on them. Somebody accidentally sends that out. Now I know if somebody got the information on my child, let's say they have certain developmental disabilities, and somebody's getting that information, I would not be happy. For example, like my son had gone to a private school, I had gotten somebody else's report card. Now, this was years ago, but that would have been a claim right there. I could have gone in there and said, hey, listen, I've received this information. Where's my son's? Let that parent know that I got that information. It could have turned into something horrendous. And where we just sort of like went to the school and addressed it, a lot of people wouldn't, and they would be looking for restitution, and they'd be coming to you. Here's a daycare, something that's similar that Tanner said. Brightwheel did not have the right security in place, and it sent images of the children out. Well, if your daycare cam is hacked, it could have access, as some of you have videos. It could be names, passwords. How do the parents get into those videos? They have to have a password. That can be dumped into the black market. If phones are lost or stolen and you have passwords on them, so a parent's password, if a parent's phone is stolen, somebody gets it, they hack into your system using that, and they take this information, you're still responsible. So here's the cost of a breach. The United States has one of the highest notification costs due to the numerous regulations requiring data disclosure that breaches victims and regulators. Regulatory fines and penalties can start up to $100,000. The average cost per record to notify and remediate is $214. So multiply the number of children you have times the number of records times the number of years that you have to keep these records. How many of those records do you have that you had to do if you were breached? You had to multiply it times $214. Every time somebody logs into your system, you have a chance for a breach. Think about that. How many people get into your system every day that is an opportunity for them to breach it, and that you're liable for? The cost of an insurance policy. There are some endorsements on some policies that offer minimal coverage for a couple $100. It's just maybe like 50,000. So I would check with the carrier. A cyber policy usually starts at about $1,000. And like I said, the cost is determined by your business revenue, by the cyber protection systems that you have in place, and the type of business that you have. So you'd be daycare, but they're looking for your cyber protection systems. Do you have multifaceted authentication? Do you have firewalls? They really ask an awful lot of questions. And if you don't have an IT person, it's very complicated to answer these questions, because unless you're an IT person, you won't know exactly what it is that they're asking for or how to protect yourself. So you might say, well, I'm not a big business. Do I really need to be concerned? Hijackers are looking for small businesses that they don't think will have cyber insurances. So ransomware, and this is what actually happened, ransomwares will go in, they'll lock your system, and they'll say that you have to give them like Bitcoin. They usually ask for a 5,000, something that is not astronomical, that, there you'd have to go to you'd report it, something that you could probably pay in order to unlock it. Now, I've talked with a lot of cyber companies, and an example that they told me is one of their clients was compromised, was hacked, and they were told to pay $5,000, and they would be given the code to access their system. And what they had to do is they had to meet the hijacker's connection, because it wasn't really the hijacker. The hijacker hires people to go out and collect this. He met him at a Tim Hortons, and he had to give him the money, and the guy gave him the code. So they reported it to the FBI, and the FBI said, well, but we can't, that's too small. If you want to get like several of them, so it's like 500,000, then we can do it. We are looking at Tops, we're looking at Target, Kohl's, Home Depot. We're looking at those accounts. We can't focus on the little accounts. We just don't have enough manpower. And that's what the ransomware people are looking at. They're looking at the small businesses that really can't go to the FBI and say, listen, I've been compromised, I've been hacked, help me. It's just not happened. One of the child care resource networks, somebody hacked in, and again, they froze it. It cost them $20,000 to get their system up and to pay the ransomware in order for them to be up. They were locked out of everything. So where you think sometimes because I'm small, they're not going to come after me, unfortunately, because you're small, they will come after you. It's like easy pickings for them. They're going to go to the low-bearing fruit. Does anybody have any questions before I bring on Tanner? Okay, so now I'd like to introduce Tanner. I'm from Synchronet, who's been around since 1998. He's the Vice President of Business Development, and he's going to discuss some strategies and techniques that you can work on with your employees. Ready, Tanner?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking me to do this. It's fun. So cyber training for employees, responsibility for company data. Gotta really emphasize the critical nature of data security when you and your employees have legal and regulatory obligations. So as we spoke about earlier, I mean, childcare providers, everybody on this call, you guys have a lot of information. I would argue to say that a lot of personal information, socials, driver's license, credit cards, you're emailing bills, more information than most businesses. Even looking into Buffalo, I look at our portfolio at Synchronet. We have a lot of metal manufacturers, different industries that definitely don't have the same amount of information that the people on this call have to protect. Document management and notification. Employees should be educated on the reporting procedures if there were an event. So not only documenting, but actually having things in place within your company that if something does happen, they know the standard procedure, where to go with it, what to do, who to notify, and essentially push it down the line. Passwords, train your employees to select strong passwords. It's so important. Everybody reuses passwords. Please don't reuse passwords. That's my advice. there is a website out there. It's called Dino Pass. It's called Dino Pass. It will actually generate a strong password for you. So you can go to dinopass.com, click strong password generator, and it will generate a password that's, more than 10 characters. It's got all the special characters in there, capitals. That way you can diversify your passwords and not have to reuse the same password
Is
over and
it
over again.
DINO? Dino,
Dino.
PASS?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Dino Pass. And while we're on the topic of passwords, another application, both of these are free, is called RoboForm, like robot, RoboForm. And that's a password management app. So all these complex passwords that you have for your different sites, whether it be in your personal life or in your business passwords, it'll store all your separate passwords. That way you don't have to remember them. A nice feature of RoboForm as well is it will actually tell you if one of the passwords that you have stored in the app has been breached. So if RoboForm is telling you that one of your passwords that you're using has been breached, and somebody out there that shouldn't have the password has the password, obviously if you see that, you go and change your passwords. So those are two recommendations I have on passwords. And unauthorized software. I mean, it sounds like common sense, but make sure that employees are aware they can't just go around installing unlicensed software on their company computer. Obviously more than welcome to do that on their own computers at home, but not on the company stuff. So super important stuff on this page. Any questions so far, guys? I'll keep rolling. If questions pop in, cool. Ways you can be breached. These are some topics discussed with your employees. Types of losses. So you've got phishing, employees clicking on malicious links. As Marsha was talking about earlier, typically it looks like somebody that should be sending you an email, somebody somebody you trust, and just a couple of the characters in the email will be off. So really look at those links, hover over the link before you click on it. And if it's a super long link when you're hovering over it, don't click on the link. Especially when people are asking for money or, hey, follow this link and get some gift cards. It's a best practice to pick up the phone, call that person, and make sure that it was actually them that sent you something.
Tyler, I'm going to interject here real quick.
Yeah.
Somebody hacked in and sent a whole bunch of people that I'm in financial need. Can you please send me $5,000? I can't tell you. I was very honored that these people like, Marsha, what do you need the money for? How do you want me to send it to you? I'm like, oh my God, I would not be emailing you, asking you for $5,000. But yet people were eager, and I'm blessed to have people wanting to help me. But that's how it is. People, they wait for you. You don't expect it. And people are just so generous that they're thinking, how can I help? So that's a very, like Tanner said, that's very easy to jump on.
Yeah. And once they're in your email and they're monitoring your email, I mean, they sit there before they actually do anything. And they're reading what you're sending out. They're reading what you're getting in. They see who you're corresponding with on a regular basis. Maybe another company that you're exchanging money with on a regular basis, and they'll sit there and watch that, and then they'll start to act as you. So very, very advanced, and they're getting smarter with this stuff, just as the people on the good side of things are getting smarter as well. So plugging in from infected drives, it's like if somebody hands you a drive, obviously don't plug that in. It's again, standard best practice. And rogue employees. I see you have rogue employees on there. It jogs my memory to the Gucci example that you had earlier. Obviously employee was let go, was pretty upset about that. And then they had malicious intentions. So, as far as bringing employees on and getting them set up in your directory, it's also a best practice as employees leave or are let go that you take them off of your Active Directory as well. External threats, the common ones, ransomware and malware infection, and they are becoming more and more regular. So it's packages you can actually buy on the dark web, just like a sales company would buy leads, and you get a list of leads. These breaches, these lists of social security numbers, passwords, emails, on the dark web, you can actually buy a list of those as well. So pretty crazy stuff. Some cyber training tips we'll run through real quick. Train your employees to verify links, to verify the sender and email address before opening an email or attachment. So this is what we're talking about earlier. I mean, call the person up, make sure it's them that's sending it to you, and train your employees. There's plenty of different packages out there, whether you have an IT department or whether you do it by yourself, that you can sign up with a company and do cyber training. And it's a good idea to do the cyber training, and then, you know, maybe team up with an IT company that can send out a simulated phishing attempt to see if your employees are clicking on things they shouldn't. So you also have to, you know, train, but practice, train and practice, just like sports. So just it's repetition. Employees should understand the dangers while visiting harmful websites. You know, definitely should be blocking off some websites within your network that employees cannot get to. But you know, it is common sense, but you should be talking to your employees about, you know, not going to websites they shouldn't. Non-secure websites. If you go to a website and comes up with a bunch of boxes, it's like, click here to be redirected. Don't click on the link. It sounds like common sense, but people do crazy things. Strengthen your passwords. Talked about a password generator earlier. Multi-factor authentication. So this is a you know, an app or a code that would be sent to your cell phone when you're trying to log into emails or QuickBooks or, you know, general applications that you guys use in your day-to-day business. But 6-digit code would be sent to your phone or via app, and you put in that code to access the app or the information that you're trying to get into. Obviously, if you have two-factor set up and you receive a code and it's not you that's trying to get into that information, you know that somebody else is. So that's another great reason to add two-factor to your arsenal. Back up your data. Run backups. There's internal backups if you have a server in-house. There's cloud backups if your applications are in the cloud. Definitely have to back up your data. When you back up your data, that protects you from, you know, if you have a ransomware attack, you might not always have to pay them that money if you have the backup, and you can go restore all the information that they stole. And create an incident response plan. Have something, you know, lined up for you know, a disaster recovery or a what if scenario. Have the incident response plan. Make sure all the employees in your business have a copy of this plan and know what to do in case of an emergency.
I just want to go back to the leaving your devices unattended. You should have something on your computer that after, so like whether after 2 minutes or 3 minutes that you're not active on it, it automatically turns off, and then somebody has to put in a password in order to get in it. So it's just not standing there idle where anybody can come in, look at it, and get information off of it. Right, Tanner?
Absolutely. That's a great addition. And this is what a simple response plan looks like. Secure your router and your Wi-Fi. As the, maybe not in the child care provider industry, but a bunch of industries during the COVID lockdown, people were working remote more than ever. And I was guilty of it. Not always changing your Wi-Fi passwords. People get Wi-Fi, they get the router set up, and they don't change the password from what the Spectrum person set it as when they came out. So it's something to think about within your business is, you know, securing your Wi-Fi, changing your passwords, making sure it's not as it was when it was set up, and you know, changing it yearly. Decide who gets to see what, strong passwords, write your policies down, train your employees, up your email game. Two-factor is one way to do that. Back up your data, prepare and detect your malware, supercharge your firewall. You know, Syncronet's an outsourced IT company. We deal with a bunch of other companies in the area. We act as their IT department. I know for a fact on cyber insurance policies, the application to receive cyber insurance, every single one of them, do you have a firewall? Is your firewall encrypted? So there you go, a little freebie just for those about you that don't have the cyber insurance. Yeah, you're going to need a firewall and it's going to need to be encrypted. And protect yourself with cyber liability insurance. Link up with a professional that knows what they're talking about. Shameless plug for Marcia. I know she's great at this, and it really does a good job for her clients.
Okay, so that pretty much, thank you, Tanner. That was great. And you know, when you go, when you get a cyber application, they ask you, like I had said, some specific information that you most likely would have to get from your IT person, because as a novice, you wouldn't necessarily know. I know I have to use my IT person for my, when I work from home, I have to make sure that my computer is secure. And it's really great to have a great IT person. Does anybody have any questions before we conclude the program? We're almost, look at that, 7:24. We're pretty good, keeping it to an hour. We're trying to respect your time. We know this is tough for you. You've worked a long day. You've been with kids all day. This is not exactly the most interesting topic. It certainly is overwhelming and intimidating. So we wanted to make sure that we did get you the most information in the shortest amount of time. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, now I'm just going to ask you if you can just be so kind to help us with this presentation and just give us two numbers. For the information, did we share the right amount of information? Was it information that you felt was important? And did we explain it in a way that you understood? So if you can just give us a 1 to 5 on the chat box, I'd really appreciate it. Is anybody out there? Did we lose everybody? Okay. I'll take a 5. That's great. 4 and 4. Okay. Mary Beth, I'll talk to you to see what we need to do to get to the number 5. Okay, Cynthia, thank you, Cynthia. Maria, thank you. Thanks for coming in. Even if you came in late, better late, not never, and we'll have this available to you. Right, Nadege and Alyssa?
Yes, we will.
Okay. I think that pretty much concludes what we're going to be talking about today. So I think I will pass it on to Nadege. Is that who I'm passing it on to?
Yes. I think Mary Beth asked the best slide. Yes, we will be emailing everyone the slide and also any information that you may have for Marcia. Feel free to, her email address is there, and also you can email Alyssa and myself, and we'll get it to Marcia as well. Does anyone have any questions before we end? Doesn't seem like there's any questions. Well,
I think we overwhelmed them with all this information. Now it's go take a couple Tylenol and just chill out.
It was great information and content, Marcia. I think everyone appreciates it. You and Tanner, you did a great job. So
great job, Marcia.
Thank
And
you.
the best part about this topic is it's evolving. We could talk about this in 6 months and it'll be completely different.
That's right. That's right. I appreciate your help, Tanner. Everyone,
Absolutely.
again, thank you very much for giving me your time tonight to help educate and empower yourself as business owners. I appreciate it. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.